Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for dropping by this channel. To anyone who's new to this channel is about critiquing unhealthy forms of non-duality, of which in the 21st century, there's a lot. In general, I don't talk about spiritual teachers by name, but for some reason I feel moved to make an exception here. So I'm going to talk about the work of Byron Katie. I'm not going to really talk about Byron Katie as a person, though. The reason why I think I'm making this exception is because her work is very unique. I wish her work didn't have her name in it, so I didn't, but it's really kind of her own thing. So I can't really talk about it without mentioning her name. So there it is. Going to talk a little bit about the work of Byron Katie today. But first, before I do that, I am going to read a comment I recently got from someone about their experience with the work of Byron Katie. So here we go. Hey, wanted to send you a method. So I stumbled across your video because of Byron Katie's book, Loving What Is. When I got to the end of the book, I couldn't read it anymore because her method felt harmful. But I needed some clarification because I couldn't point out what's wrong. I mean, she's nice and she preaches a message of love, but it felt like if I do her method, then I step on my feelings and on my traumas. It just doesn't feel healthy for every situation I encountered. It may be helpful for some, but for the most part, it just doesn't feel right. My body and mind said to me, nope, this is bullshit. So thank you for the clarification and posting these helpful videos. I'd like to know, what do you think about another teacher? So thank you so much to the person who posted that. So I was hardcore into the work of Byron Katie. I've met Katie, had multiple one-on-one conversations with her. I did a 28-day retreat with her where it was just a few of her sort of high-level trainers and her and me and 4 other people. It was very intimate. Got to know her quite well. She got to know me. I very deep, and I've done about maybe 50 days of retreats with her. And yeah, really had a lot of one-on-one conversations with her, a good 20 to 30. So I feel like I know her and her work pretty well. And I've done thousands, tens of thousands of hours, maybe not tens of thousands, but a couple of thousands of hours of her method on my own and then with other people. So maybe before I get into my experience, I'm going to respond to this person. So towards the end of the book, this person said, I couldn't read it anymore because her method felt harmful. And here's where things get interesting. The work of Byron Katie, I guess I am going to talk about my experience. The work of Byron Katie saved my life and almost destroyed my life. So my view is that it can be helpful, but it needs extreme discernment. Here's an example where it was really helpful. For a long time, I had the belief that I was broken. And that, it was a very painful belief. And so I did the work of Byron Katie on it about 6. And for those who don't know, the work of Byron Katie is a set of questions. You identify a negative thought, and then you ask specific questions. It's contemplative. It's a contemplation. It's an inquiry into thoughts, how thoughts affect us, how we would be without thoughts, and then actually reversing the thoughts to look at reality from a different perspective. So after doing that work, it took me about 6 or 7 times, but I really felt free of that negative belief. So it was really profound. And in 2009, I almost killed myself. So that's a whole story. It is from, paradoxically, part of what led me there was her teachings, not completely, but her teachings plus some other factors, plus Neo-Advaita, really bad non-duality, took me to that point. But so I made it to an emergency room, and they partially admitted me into. So there's the waiting room in the emergency room. Then they take you back, and then there's like a side room, right, where the nurse is, doing intake. And then because I reported I was suicidal, they put a guard outside my door. And so, friends, that was hell on earth. Being in that room, because initially there was the relief of getting to the hospital, but then all the feelings and thoughts that led to me wanting to kill myself, there they were, and I couldn't do anything. There was a guard at the door. That was one of the deepest experiences of misery in my life, being stuck in there, and I didn't know what to do. And so then it came to me, why don't you do the work? And so there were three main thoughts that were driving my feelings of suicide. There's no hope for me. My life is going to get increasingly worse, and the mental health system is evil, meaning medications. So I identified those thoughts, and then I did Byron Katie's inquiry on them. And within 40 minutes, I went from hell to heaven. I was completely released of all of the negative feelings that led me to want to kill myself. In 40 minutes, I identified 3 negative thoughts. I inquired on those thoughts, and then I was free. Not just free, I was liberated. I don't even have the words to describe the misery, the absolute misery I was in. And this simple practice, and of course, I had some practice at it. So, part of what the work of Byron Katie does is it helps you to have an open mind. And that's one of the benefits. And so all the work I had done in the past, I'm sure helped it to happen more easily. But I went from hell to heaven. It was amazing. And I'm utterly grateful to her for that moment. Of course, the paradox is her teachings led me to that moment. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But so then I went, and very soon after that, like within a week, I went and did a retreat with her. And I got to that retreat and I just started crying, and I didn't stop. I cried for like 5 days, and I would go in and out of these waves of deep and intense crying and misery and hell. The feelings would come back, and then I would do inquiry on them, and then the feelings would go, and then they would come back. And so what I want to say is that the work of Byron Katie will take you into your deepest. It'll take you into hell on earth. It'll take you into your deepest fears and traumas and misery. And if you're not prepared for that, it'll fuck you over. It's very profound. It's very profound and deep stuff. And so that's one of the faults of the work of Byron Katie, is it doesn't prepare you. And there's, within the work community, and Katie says this herself, it's kind of a teaching of, there's this idea that the work will just take you wherever you need to go. And that's a cool idea, but it wasn't my experience. The work took me to places I wasn't ready to go. And that's one of the problems with Neo-Advaita, is it doesn't properly prepare people. And that's one of the reasons I classify Byron Katie's work as Neo-Advaita, is it doesn't properly prepare people. So I'm going to go back to this letter this person wrote. This person, I got to the end of the book, I couldn't read anymore because her method felt harmful. I needed some clarification because I couldn't point out what was wrong. I mean, she's nice and she preaches a message of love, but I felt like if I do her method, then I step on my feelings and my trauma. So for example, let's say, for example, you're in an abusive situation. Like, let's say there's someone in your life named Jack or Janet who's abusing you. So the way the work of Byron Katie would operate is you would identify the thought, Jack or Janet is abusing me. And the first thing it would do is it would lead you to ask, is it true? And you get to say yes or no. Then the next question is, how do you react when you believe that thought? And so, like, oh, I feel tense, I feel angry, I feel upset, I feel resentful. The next question, who would you be if you couldn't think that thought? Like, everything else is happening the same externally. And, but you can't think the thought, Jack is abusing me, or Janet is abusing me, or whoever. Well, I'd feel more peaceful. I wouldn't be as angry. Then turn the thought around. Jack isn't abusing me. Another turnaround would be, Jack is blessing me. Another turnaround would be, I'm abusing Jack. Another turnaround would be, I'm abusing me. And then you have to find examples how each of those are true. So on the one hand, it's really cool. Like, it's really cool to be like, oh, wait, how are the ways that I'm abusing Jack? Oh, wait, how are the ways I'm abusing me? How are the ways Jack is blessing me? Because we get it locked in a thought like Jack is abusing me, and then we don't see that that's not the whole picture. The problem, however, is that the work can lead you to dissociate from problems. And that's what I experienced. And this person who wrote in, I think that's what they were sensing. I experienced that once. I was in a very unhealthy business relationship with someone. And so I would feel upset and unwell. And I'm like, I got to get out of this. And then I do the work and I'd be like, oh, it's a blessing. This is supposed to be happening. And it literally would dissociate me from my feelings. Yes, my feelings were reactive and amped up, but there was some truth to them. And there's some truth to the thought Jack is in that situation, for example, that Jack is abusing you. But the work dissociates you from that. So once again, without proper preparation, the work made me more codependent and it made me less empowered. Because I would just be like, oh, this is supposed to be happening. So a teaching like this can be helpful, but without proper context and preparation, that's what we see in Neo-Advaita over and over and over. It takes away proper context and preparation, and hence it becomes dangerous. And here's the worst part about the work of Byron Katie is it's not open to criticism about itself. Many people have said to Katie, like, hey, the work doesn't work. And Katie, I've seen her do this. I don't like to talk, but anyway, I've also seen other people who are into the work do this. They take that criticism and they turn it around and put it on the person. There's this idea that the work works. And if you just do enough of the work, it'll work. And the work is the only thing you need. These are absurd claims, just like Neo-Advaita. Absolutely absurd and discounting of, some trauma is stored in the body. It discounts, it's really become kind of a religion. It really has, I'm sad to say. So to the person who, felt something was off, there is something off. It's not so much that this person wrote, my mind and body said, nope, this is bullshit. I don't think it's so much that the technique is bullshit. I think that it's incomplete. And because it's incomplete, it's dangerous. And there's some bullshit connected to it, which I don't know that I'll get into. There's more bullshit connected to it, but I don't know. I'm not going to get into that now. Lastly, you asked me, what do I think about blank, another teacher? Well, they're not a non-dual teacher, is the first thing I'll say. So I don't think I'll get too much into them. I don't think I'm going to say much more about them. They're not someone who I've researched heavily. So But thank you for asking, and hope this video is helpful. Take care, dear ones. Big love.